Okay, so let's start with a super quick revision of the first chapter under GST, that is GST in India and introduction. I am taking this particular revision from your summary notes, from your super quick last day revision notes. Okay, just a small thing, these revision notes are to be used only for the purpose of revision, okay, and not for first time studies. For first time studies, main content book is to be used. Yes. Let's start with it, everyone. So it has to be a super quick revision. Okay, all the provisions we will try to revise, yes, in a concise manner. Now, first chapter, that is GST in India and introduction. Basic things that we need to know is, first of all, GST is a destination based tax. That is, revenue of GST should go to that particular state where the goods are going to go. Okay, wherever is the final destination of the goods, at that place the revenue, at that particular state the revenue should go. And second one, GST is a consumption based tax. Okay, it is not that the customer is earning something, customer is spending something on goods or services, on that the customer is required to pay the GST. Okay, then GST came into picture from which date? It came into picture on 1st July 2017. As on 1st July 2017, it was applicable to whole of India excluding Jammu Kashmir, but with effect from 8th July 2017. Okay, with effect from 8th July 2017, it was adopted by Jammu Kashmir also, and now as on today, the GST law is applicable to whole of India including Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, before bringing this GST law, we were required to do some constitutional amendments. Okay, because earlier the powers were with the respective government. Some powers were there with state government, some powers were there with central government. But now under GST they wanted to give dual powers. Okay, and if they wanted to give dual powers, then that provision was nowhere there in the Constitution of India. So first thing that they had to do was to do the constitutional amendment. For that, they passed a constitutional amendment. They proposed a constitutional amendment bill. Okay, then that was approved by Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, majority of the states, President of India, and then that became Constitution Amendment Act 2016. And once the changes was done in the year 2016 in the Constitution, after that we knew that no one can stop us from bringing the GST here in India. Okay, so once this Constitution Amendment Act was done, after that the GST Council was formed. Okay, and then GST Council started making the different GST laws. Okay, and by 30th of June, our Central GST Act was ready, and different states, or all the states except Jammu and Kashmir, they had made their own state GST laws also. Okay, till 30th June 2017. So from the very next day, that is 1st July 2017, GST was made applicable to whole of India excluding Jammu and Kashmir, and later Jammu Kashmir also adopted it. So once GST came into picture, different laws were made, different acts were made. CGST Act was made, SGST Acts were made, IGST Act was made, UTGST Act was made, and GST Compensation to States Cess Act 2017 was also made. Right? Now, CGST Act will be applicable to whole of India. IGST Act will be applicable to whole of India because that is in control of the central government. UTGST Act will be applicable to union territories who are not having their own legislature. Means it will be applicable to Call, D and others, if you recollect. Chandigarh, Andaman and Nicobar, Ladakh, Lakshadweep, Daman and Diu, and Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and any other territory as may be notified. So it will be applicable to these 5 union territories. Okay, all others will be considered as states. Yes, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Gujarat, etc., UP, MP, etc. These will be considered as states. Okay, and then 3 more. Okay, 3 more. That is Delhi, Puducherry, and Jammu Kashmir. Okay, these are normally considered as union territory, but for the purpose of GST, they said that they will make their own state legislature. They will make their own state laws. We said no problem. Make your own state laws, and if they are making their own state laws, then they will be considered as what? They will be considered as states for the purpose of GST. Okay, that is given here in the first table. Now, then going on to the next one, that is concept of GST. What is so special about GST? So first of all, GST is the actual value added tax. Means only on the value addition that is done, only on that amount GST is applicable. And secondly, GST is the whole and sole tax which is applicable on manufacturing, which is applicable on reselling, which is applicable on consumption. Okay, in the old law, on manufacturing we had excise duty, on sale we had VAT, etc. But here you have got a single tax, that is your GST. Okay, next, in GST, we have seen in our main lectures also, in our GST, continuous chain of tax credits is there. Means whatever tax we have paid at the time of our purchases, we will get the input tax credit of the same, and because of that, there is no cascading effect of taxes, and because of that the final burden goes on whom? The final burden goes on the consumer. Okay, all the middlemen, all the middle persons will keep on getting the tax credits. Okay, and they are not going to pay the tax from their pocket. Ultimately, they are going to recover it from the consumer. Right? Now, if government has come up with this new law of GST, means can we say there was some problem with the old law? Yes, now what were the problems in the old law? What were the deficiencies in the old law? I'll quickly glance through all the deficiencies. Okay, now in the old law, in some goods and services, we had issues that whether it is goods or whether it is services. If goods, VAT will be applicable. If services, service tax will be applicable. So, sometimes when there was no clarity, people used to charge VAT also and people used to charge service tax also. Double taxation was happening. That was one of the problem in the old one. Okay, next, when on a particular product, excise duty was applicable plus VAT was also applicable. So, VAT was charged on value including excise duty. Means VAT was also taxed on the excise duty. VAT was also charged on the excise duty. Tax on tax. This is nothing but multiple taxes getting applicable. Right? Then after that, excise duty you have already paid on the product, and now you are also paying VAT on that particular product. You were not allowed any ITC. You were not allowed any set off. Why? VAT credit was not available. Why? Because excise duty was going to the central government, VAT was going to the state government. Both the governments wanted their own respective revenues. So they said no set off possible. Whereas we have seen in GST set off is possible. Right? Then in the old regime, there were many multiple taxes which were levied by the state government. Luxury tax, purchase tax, taxes on advertisement. What nonsense. Multiple taxes. Now they have gone. Now only one tax, that is your GST. Then VAT and service tax was not integrated. Okay, means let's say to provide you some teaching services, if I am purchasing some goods, means I will be paying tax on those goods also, plus I will be paying the tax while providing the services also. There was no credit available, right? Because again, different governments, VAT state government, service tax central government, right? Next, states were crying. Why were the states crying? Because states were not allowed to collect service tax. Now we know that the service industry is growing at such a good speed. So every government will need some revenue, na? But state government was not getting any revenue because it was not allowed for it to collect any service tax, because service tax collection power was there only with the central government, right? Another biggest problem was your CST. Okay, central sales tax was applicable in case of interstate supply of goods. Okay, at that time, if you have paid excise duty first and then you are now paying CST credit was not available. Okay, or let's say you first paid CST and now you are paying VAT, then this credit was not available. Okay, why this credit was not available? This was a pure distortion because they had made a law that CST credits are never allowed, right? And the last one was CST was totally against. Okay, CST was totally against the principle of indirect taxes. The principle of indirect taxes was such that indirect taxes are always destination based tax. Means the revenue will go to that state government where the goods are finally going. But CST was opposite. CST said I am origin based tax. Origin based tax means the revenue will go to that particular government from where the transaction has started. So it was totally against the principle of indirect taxes, and because of these many deficiencies, the government finally decided that we should bring GST into picture. Okay, now we have got some features of GST or framework of GST. Just try to understand the pointers. Okay, first one, can we say GST is a dual GST model because the powers are given to both Parliament as well as the state government. Then, which all type of taxes are applicable? CGST is applicable, SGST is applicable, IGST is applicable, UTGST is applicable. Ma'am, when which type of tax is applicable? So, in case of intra-state supply, okay, within a same state, two taxes will be applicable, that is CGST and SGST. Acha, what if it is within the same union territory? Then CGST will be applicable plus UTGST will be applicable. Are you understanding this? Yes, then these taxes will be applicable. But what if it is an interstate supply? Interstate supply. In case of interstate supply, there is only one tax that is applicable, and that is your IGST. And further, this IGST will be divided into two parts, that is your CGST between central government and the state government. Right? Then next, for the purpose of different rates of taxes on different goods and services, they have made a rate schedule. Okay, they have made a rate schedule. For goods, they have used a system of classification called as HSN code, Harmonized System of Nomenclature they have used for the purpose of classification. And for services, they are using a code called as Service Accounting Code, where different services will be written. Besides that, HSN code will be written, and besides that, the rate of GST will be written. So if I am starting with any business and if I want to find out what are the rates of GST applicable, I can directly go to the rate schedule, I can find my product or services, and besides that, I will get the HSN also, and I will get the rate of GST also. Okay, then three things under GST. Okay, now should everyone get himself registered under GST? No. Okay, only if your aggregate turnover exceeds the threshold limit, okay, exceeds a particular limit, then only you are required to get yourself registered, not otherwise. So this is a benefit given. Okay, next, even after registration, if you are a small person, okay, I'm not quantifying it now because anyway we'll do it later, but if you are a small person, then you can cover yourself under this composition scheme, means where directly on your turnover, okay, directly on your turnover, you can pay a flat rate of GST. Okay, you can pay a flat rate of GST directly on your turnover, that to a discounted rate. So this is a benefit given to small persons under GST. This is what they say. And last, there will be some essential goods and services on which the government is going to provide you, some exemptions. Means there can be some essential goods, there can be some essential services on which government says no GST should be made applicable. So they will provide you an exemption. Okay, now when this big reform was done under GST, they had made the plan that everything should be transparent and everything should be online. So for that purpose, they made a website, GST Common Portal. Okay, general website they made for the purpose of GST, that is gst.gov.in. On this particular website, first of all, this website will be maintained by GSTN, GST Network, which is a Section 8 company formed under the Companies Act. Okay, and GSTN will use, it will take the help from GSPs, that is GST Suvidha providers, and GST Suvidha providers can take help from application service providers. Example, GST Suvidha providers, example can be your TCS, Infosys, such IT companies. Okay, if you want to maintain such a big website, you will need help of information technology companies. So we will take the help of GSPs. GSPs can further take the help of small developers, small service providers called as ASPs. Okay, now what is the function of this GSTN? Now they are maintaining this particular website. For what purpose are they maintaining this particular website? They are maintaining this for the purpose of, now if anyone wants to get registered under GST, use this website. If you want to make the payment of taxes, use GST. Okay, if you want to file returns to the government, use this website. Okay, use this GST Common Portal. Okay, then remember that bifurcation of IGST between center and the state, that will be done by the GST portal backend. MIS reports, Management Information System reports, will be generated by the portal and will be shared by with the central government and state government about us. Right? My profile, taxpayers profile, analysis of my profile will be shared with the central government and state government, that am I a regular taxpayer or am I a defaulter person? Right? And then input tax credit calculations will also be done on this particular website. These are the functions of the GSTN. Okay, for everything we use the GST common portal except for one small thing, that is for making a document called as electronic waybill, e-waybill. For e-waybill we are going to use another website called as ewaybillgst.gov.in, which is maintained by Government of India. Means it is not maintained by GSTN, that is maintained by Government of India. Only for this one purpose we are going to use this website. Otherwise we are going to use the GST common portal, that is gst.gov.in. Are you understanding this? Yes. Then after that, the next one, that is compensation cess. Okay, compensation cess, we had discussed it in our main lectures, that earlier what used to happen, you know, on some luxury products, on some demerit products, taxes were fully levied by the state government. Okay, so entire revenue was going to the state government. But now what has happened? Now the revenue is shared between central government and state government. So who will suffer the loss of revenue? State government will suffer the loss of revenue. So state government says that we want some compensation. So central government says, okay, no problem. Okay, we will collect a new tax called as GST compensation cess, and that will be paid to the respective state who has suffered the loss due to implementation of GST. Understanding this? Yes. Okay. Then after that, GST on certain products. Now you already know alcoholic liquor for human consumption. This is totally outside GST. If it is totally outside GST, does not mean that no tax is applicable. Okay. On its manufacturing, state excise duty is applicable, and on its sale, VAT or CST is applicable. Oh my God. Means we are there under the old system till now for alcoholic liquor for human consumption. 5 petrol products, petroleum crude, petrol, diesel, natural gas, ATF. Till now GST is not applicable. It will be applicable from a later date. On that, central excise duty will be applicable at the time of its manufacture, and VAT CST will be applicable on its sale. Okay. Tobacco, GST is applicable, but on its manufacturing, central excise duty is also applicable. Two types of taxes applicable. Demerit products, levy more and more taxes. Okay. And last, drugs, that is OPM, Indian hemp, narcotic drugs, etc. On that also, GST is applicable at the time of sale, but at the time of manufacture, state excise duty will be applicable. Are you understanding this? Yes, this is about the applicability of GST on various transactions. Okay, now listen. Now, when we did this transition, okay, when we did this transition from old law to new law, can we say in old law, subject to the above mentioned products? Okay, subject to the above mentioned products, can we say old taxes are totally gone? VAT, CST, service tax, excise duty, etc. is totally gone, except on some products that we just now studied. Okay, means can we say those taxes got subsumed in GST? Those got merged in GST. Now, on who did this merger? First of all, this was done by the council called as GST Council. Now, what logic did it apply while doing this subsuming of taxes in GST? So, 4 principles. Okay, 4 principles they applied while subsuming the taxes. Ma'am, what 4 principles? First of all, whatever taxes you are subsuming, those should be indirect taxes only. Secondly, whatever taxes you are subsuming should be a part of the transaction chain. Means it should be those taxes which starts from manufacturer to the consumer, or which starts from service provider to the service recipient. Excise duty, VAT, CST, service tax. Those taxes should be subsumed and GST should be made applicable. Then only those taxes should be subsumed which were relating to goods and services. Any taxes which does not relate to goods and services should not be subsumed. I said okay. Example, income tax. Example, stamp duty. Example, municipal taxes. These are not related to goods and services, so these should not be subsumed. And the last one, there should be a revenue fairness. Okay, for state government as well as central government, both of them should be getting equal amount of taxes or equivalent amount of taxes. So depending upon that, we subsume the different taxes in GST. Ma'am, which taxes got subsumed? Which taxes got subsumed? Now, in central taxes, okay, in central taxes, your excise duties got subsumed, service tax got subsumed, CST got subsumed, and all the surcharge and cess which were there under the old law, those got subsumed. Okay, in state taxes, your VAT got subsumed, entry tax, purchase tax, tax on advertisement, tax on betting, lottery, gambling, etc. Entertainment tax by the state government, that got subsumed. Yes, all and surcharge and cesses under the old law. All these taxes got subsumed. So, ma'am, which taxes are left? Basic custom duty, duty to compensate GST. GST compensation says entertainment tax by local authority, that is still there. Property tax, stamp duty, etc. These are still prevailing. Okay, these are not subsumed in GST. Then we had already studied about this manner of utilization of ITC. If you have got IGST credit available with you, use it first against IGST liability, then against CGST or SGST, no sequence. If you have got CGST credit available with you, first use it against CGST liability, then against IGST, but not against CS cross, right? And the last one, if you have got SGST credit with you, first use it against SGST liability, then use it against IGST liability, but not against CGST liability. And then for seamless flow of credit, we had already discussed. Do you recollect? We had done full numerical question for interstate and intrastate, that finally the revenue should go to that government where the goods are finally going to land, right? Till here, all your features of GST, framework of GST gets completed. And now the last two provisions, one is talking about benefits of GST, another one is talking about constitutional provisions. So they just highlighted a few benefits of GST. Now, benefits of GST to our economy as a whole is that, first of all, because of one nation, one tax, there is only the entire India is considered as one market. Means if I am purchasing the goods in one state, or if I am selling it to another state, or if I am purchasing it from another state, doesn't matter. Same amount of taxes will be applicable. So full India is considered as one unified state. Okay, unified market. Because of input tax credit, etc., more and more people have started manufacturing here in India. Okay, if they have started manufacturing here in India, can we say more money is now invested here in India itself instead of going out? Yes, and because of that, more and more employment opportunities are also created. Are you understanding this? Yes. Then after that, because of this particular structure, they say that there is ease of doing business, because everything has become transparent. Okay, whatever is your amount payable, that will be shown on the portal. Whatever is your input tax credit, that will be shown on the portal. So this has become kind of simple. Yes, and because of the common portal, because of the GST common portal, because of use of information technology, most of the things have become automated. So it has again become simple from the taxpayer point of view, and because of that, the compliance cost has gone down. The work which was earlier done by 5 employees, now that can be done by 2 employees only, right? And then starting from your agriculture sector to the tertiary sector, that is to the service sector, everyone has got benefited because of the concept of ITC. And because of the concept of ITC, they are not required to bear any amount of taxes, right? The taxes is shifted on the final consumer, and that has also eliminated your cascading effect. There is no tax on tax, because at every level you get the benefit of input tax credit, right? And last, because of the registration process, okay, registration threshold limits, okay, and because of the benefits given to the composition scheme dealers, okay, there are, can we say, benefits given to small traders, small entrepreneurs, small businessmen also. So they are telling that as a whole, there are many benefits given under GST, because of which so many people have got the benefits, right? And then going on to the next one, that is last one, that is your constitutional provisions, about which we had already studied that before bringing GST, we had to do some constitutional amendments. Okay, why? Because earlier the powers were there with the respective governments. Now they wanted to give the dual powers. So for that, there was no provision in the constitution available. So now we have to give them the powers. Okay, now India works in 3 tier. Most biggest government is central government, then your state government, and then your local authority. And each of the government have been given their own respective powers to levy the taxes, right? And article number 265 says that without power, no taxes can be levied. Okay, if there is no authority in the constitution, then you cannot levy any XYZ taxes, not allowed, right? Then article number 245 of the constitution says that if parliament is making a law, it is applicable to whole of India. Parliament, whole of India. and if any legislature of a state is making any law, then it is applicable only to that particular state. Fair enough. Okay. Acha. Then Article 246 contained the exclusive powers given to the parliament, exclusive powers given to the state. Example, 7th schedule to article number 246 said what? It said that union list will contain all those powers. Okay, union list will contain all those matters where the powers are exclusively there with the central government. Example, income tax. For income tax, all things can be done by whom? For income tax, all things can be done only exclusively by the central government. State government cannot interfere at all. Okay, similarly, state list will contain all those matters. Okay, state list will contain all those matters where the powers are exclusively with the state government. Example, stamp duty. Example, VAT in the old law. Central did not have any say in that. It was not allowed to say anything, right? And the last one is your concurrent list. Concurrent list is such matters where the powers are there with both of them. Powers are there with central government also, plus the powers are there with the state government. And now one thing newly added in this particular list is the GST. Right? Now, next question arises, ma'am, okay, these were the existing articles, but why do we need amendment? Now, that answer you already know. Why do we need amendment? Because we wanted to do integration. Okay, we wanted to give powers to both center as well as state. For that purpose, they added 3 articles. Okay, which 3 articles they added? Article 246A, Article 269A and Article number 279A. These 3 articles they added only for the purpose of GST. Okay, now what was told in article number 246A? What was told in article number 246A? It said that for GST, powers have been given to parliament as well as joint as well as legislature of the state. Dual powers are given to both of them together to make all the laws relating to GST. Okay, ma'am, very good. Okay, but exclusive powers relating to interstate supply. Okay, exclusive powers relating to interstate supply and place of supply matters have been given to the parliament. Means there the decision will be taken exclusively by whom? There the decision will be taken exclusively by the central government. Right? Then next article that they inserted, that was totally talking only about interstate supply. Can you tell me few things about interstate supply? For interstate supply, who has the power? Only central government or parliament has got the powers to make the laws. Okay, in case of interstate supply, which tax will be applicable? IGST will be applicable on interstate supply, including imports. Imports was also considered as interstate supply. Okay, whatever IGST you collect, that will be then apportioned between central government and state. And any matters relating to place of supply, even that will be determined by whom? Even that will be determined by the parliament. Right? And yes, one more important point, whatever amount is apportioned between the central government and state government, the portion of central government will not get transferred to the Consolidated Fund of India. Okay, Consolidated Fund of India belongs to the entire country, but this is whose revenue? This is the revenue of the state government. So this share will not get credited to the Consolidated Fund of India. Right? And the last article number 279A talks about what? It talks about GST Council. Okay, GST Council was formed by whom? It was formed by the President of India. Okay, it was actually constituted on it actually came into force on 12 September 2016, but President constituted it on 15 September 2016, because after doing the constitutional changes, now what? Now someone has to come forward and someone has to make the GST laws. That GST law will be made by the GST Council. Okay, in GST Council, there will be people from central government also and state government also who will be coming together and sitting here, and they will be taking all the important decisions, or they will be making all the important recommendations relating to GST. Now, who all will come and sit in the GST Council? So, chairperson is your honorable finance minister of the country. That person will be the chairperson. Then there will be 2 category of member. First one is going to be from the central government, that is union minister of the state, who is in charge of revenue or finance. He is the person from the central government. And then from every state we will take one minister who is in charge of finance or taxation. So likewise, we are going to have people from central government and we are going to have people from the state government coming up there. Okay. Now, what is the work of GST Council? So GST Council will say, which will recommend, okay, Final decision is of the central government, but GST Council will do the recommendations. Now, it will tell us that which all taxes should get subsumed in GST. What should be the rate of taxes on different products? Okay, what should be the exemption on some goods and services? What will be the threshold limit for doing the registration? Okay, then after that, from which date tax will be applicable on those 5 products? Then it will make some special provision for some special category states of northeastern, Jammu, Kashmir, etc. Right? Then if there is any natural calamity or disaster, then if the government wants more revenue, it can even increase the rate of GST. So the new rate of GST will be suggested by the GST Council. These all are whose matters? These all are the matters of the GST Council. Okay, now to take all these decisions, can we say GST Council will have to conduct some meetings? If GST Council wants to conduct some meetings, it will have to conduct a meeting, and for that meeting there should be a quorum present. Minimum number of members should be present. That quorum is equal to half. Means half of the total number of members should be coming and sitting in the meeting. Then only the meeting will be considered as valid. Okay. Then whatever decision you are taking in that particular meeting, that should be approved by a majority. Okay, majority of 3/4 of the weighted average votes. Okay, means calculate how much percentage of people have voted in favor in central government, how much percentage of people have voted in favor in case of state government. Give them a weight. Okay, central government weight of 1/3, state government weight of 2/3, and then calculate the products and get the weighted average weight. There you should be getting a weighted average percentage of at least 75% who should have voted in favor. Then only that decision will be considered as passed. Okay, we have done numerical question also on this while our regular lectures. And last one is article number 368. This is not a new article, but they said in this particular article that if you want to do any changes in the GST Council, okay, let's say if you want to do any changes in the constitution of the GST Council, then that can be done by 3 level of approval. First, go to Lok Sabha, take 2/3 members approval. Then go to Rajya Sabha, take 2/3 members approval, and then go to the states. At least 50% of the states should say yes for doing the changes in the GST Council, and only after that the changes can be done. Right? This is all about your first chapter revision, that is GST in India and introduction. It is a very, very basic chapter. Yes, and for this chapter, I have put the summary notes, the last day revision notes. I have put it on my website arpitatulsian.com. You can go to the free resources. There you can find these notes, or you can also download it from my Telegram channel, that is Arpita Tulsian. Yes, and but please use these notes only for last day revision. Yes, and if you liked the lecture, if you enjoyed it, if you could recollect everything, do comment and do let me know how useful it was for you. It will motivate me also to bring more and more such revision videos for you all. Yes, thank you so much. Let's meet for the next chapter.